So we were talking, and the discussion came up during the staff meeting that Mark had been with this church in San Diego that compiled a list of all of the healings that had happened in their church, and they made a booklet out of it, and the church bought that booklet for $1 for the purpose of handing out into the community for people who needed encouragement. Like, hey, here's a place where in our church someone's healed of deafness or whatever, or money or whatever it was. As that topic was being said, and I'm going to try to set this up, no embellishment whatsoever. A man's voice came across Alyn's iPhone. Alyn, it was an arm's length away. My phone, his phone, AJ's phone was sitting right there. The phone did not light up. The phone was actually set on silent. And a man's voice interrupted us and said, "It is God's plan to transform this city." So I first thought when it happened that it was a ringer, someone's ringer. You know how people's got these weird ringers, you know. Do you want to, is there something else so that you would add to that? So here's the good thing. The reason I believe that God did this to Alyn is because Alyn's like our in-house computer tech guy. And for him to be stunned, he was looking at it going, this is mathematically impossible that this could have happened. First of all, it sounded like a soundbite of a message. And Alyn said, I don't have this message. I don't even know who this man is. I don't have anything downloaded. I have no app that's opened that would actually cause this thing to happen. And we're like, oh my gosh. So the best way I know how to say it is in biblical days, God used a donkey to speak to Balaam. I'm dead serious. And for us, he used an iPhone to speak to us. And what he said was, it is God's plan to transform this city. Now, here's what I take away from that. Number one, that is a directive. Grace Center, I want you involved in my heart and in my plan. I need you to walk with me, to understand. I'm wanting to show myself faithful. I'm wanting to transform this city. And there is a place for you, Grace Center, in this plan. See, it's amazing, isn't it? Is it? The other thing is that I realize that, there's another thing I was going to say about that. So it was mathematically impossible for that to happen. Do you want to add to that anything? Or something I'm leaving out? Yeah.
I mean, if it had been anybody else's phone, I would have dismissed it. I would have thought, oh, it was a YouTube clip that you'd loaded and you paused before you came to the meeting, or, you know, it's a Sermon of the Day app or something like that. But I know my phone. I don't have any religious things on my phone. It's all carnal. But no, I know my phone, and I freaked out because, you know when you get a notification, your screen lights up? For those of you who are saved and have iPhones, it lights up. And then you've also got a notification history where you can scroll through, missed notifications, nothing in the notification thing. My phone was not only on silent, but the ringer was down way, way, way low because my kids have apps on their phone that the notifications sometimes ring even when the ringer's not on. So I lowered it down. And it wasn't just the content, it was also the timing. I think AJ just finished summarizing. This is what Mark's church has done. And I don't know if you'd said this is what Mark's done, and I can't remember if you'd said something about transformation, but you just finished saying that. And my phone, I don't know if you remember this, but the man's voice was prefixed with what sounded like an 8-bit trumpet sound. Now, what I mean by 8-bit, like remember the old Nintendo consoles? And they would try and play the sound of a violin or a trumpet, but you could tell it was a really poor computer trying to do it. It was one of those. It was like, beep, 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 beep. And that's why I thought it was a Game Center notification or something. But then as loud as day, God bless Jean-Marie who wrote down what was said. I'm going to get AJ's phone to work here. It said, this voice, and it wasn't Siri. Some people, the most common question I get asked was it Siri? No, it was a man's voice that very clearly, we all heard it in the room, said, it is God's plan to bring transformation to your city. It's very hard telling the story because it's one of those you had to be there moments, because it sounds underwhelming, but there was an awe on it. Jeff jumped up and ran in the corner and sucked his thumb. And then the rest of it, we were like freaked out, weren't we? We were, yeah. just being transparent. So, I'm very grateful it was my phone, because I would have been the first skeptic and the first cynic. So just say, yeah, you don't know how to use your phone. I would have. Honestly, that I would have been, but I'm stumped. And then we just stood up and prayed, and we said yes, and we yelled, yeah.
Perfect. No, perfect. So, hearing this, I don't know where it's hitting your heart, and it's fine. Think about it, and think about the impossibility of it. We're trying to describe it as innocently and as best we know. It left a definite impression, and still hitting us in our spirit, that trying to convey to this church. We have been invited into a particular plan where a supernatural God would like to be supernatural again in this city.